right. Hello and welcome to the Jason Show. It's good to have all of you with us out there in accounting land, tuning in to our live stream videos or listening to the podcast of the continuing education you get here, and hopefully the entertainment. Yeah, we call this edutainment. So hopefully you find some entertainment out of this as you're being educated. And we have a guest with us today, Sean Parikh from Integrity. And Sean, I guess the very first thing I'm going to ask you is just like your 30-second, I don't know if it's an elevator pitch. That's what we call it here, the U.S. anyway. Yeah, just a little bit about Sean Parikh.
Well, I come originally from India and then, did some work in America and then started my company in US, and we work with accounting firms, and we've been helping accounting firms, trying to build a business out of a problem for and helping small and mid-sized accounting firms.
So Integrity is the name of your company, and you've kind of given us an overview on that too, I guess. But tell us a little more about Integrity, a little of your history. I know you started this company quite a few years ago now, and it's just like exploded, especially over like the last 3 or 4 years. So a little about, I guess, Integrity and your history and where you've been and where you are now.
Well, we started the company about 8 years back now, so it has been quite a while now. And we started, as I said, we saw this gap and problem for small and mid-sized accounting firms where staffing was a big challenge. It has been a number one challenge for accounting firms. Every survey, every kind of report says that for accounting firms, staffing is the single biggest challenge, whether it is retention, training of the staff member, hiring of the new staff, all of that. And that's where we saw that gap, that can we do something there? And we saw this large firms building up their offshore teams. But somehow smaller firms were kind of not doing that. Mid-sized firms were not really into it. So we thought that can we do something and can we kind of help them building their own offshore teams, So that's where we started with it, and that's where we kind of thought that let's just go ahead and help these guys. And that's where we formed Integrity. We started working with smaller firms initially because larger firms would not trust us. They find us very small, and data security and confidentiality, all of that being number one. And especially working with company, although we are headquartered in the US, but the team is sitting in India. So especially working with company, wherein you would be sending, you'll be hiring and working with a remote employee sitting in our office. So you want to work with a trusted party who has that track record. So it has been a long journey, and we're thankful that we have been able to reach to this stage and stature that today almost 30 out of top 100 accounting firms, prefer to work with us for building their offshore. So yeah, it has been an amazing journey.
Now, if we trace the history of this beyond Integrity, the big four CPA firms have been doing this since the 1980s, probably at least 20 or 30 years, maybe longer.
Well, 80s would not be the time. I think it would be like early 2000. So basically, all of these started with IT outsourcing, which became a norm in late 2000 to early 2000s. And that's where larger firms also saw this opportunity, but they were also not into it in a big way. They had their offices in India, but that was to cater Indian market, not as a back office or support office of their US operations or Canadian operations. So practically it all started in late 2000, where they really saw this as an opportunity. But, the growth was not that great because, first of all, technology was a challenge. Culturally, you did not have that ecosystem. The ecosystem was gradually building up. And then also Also, the talent was not available as well. So because of all those reasons, it was on a slow track. It kind of entered its second phase post 2015. And you can say it got into its shape now post pandemic, where things have just kind of changed. The phase of building offshore team has really changed post pandemic for accounting firms.
Well, and I want to talk to you about that. But before we get to that, I do want to define some terms here with what you do, because I know there's a difference. And I know you've talked about this and it's on the Integrity website, I know, but I think people use the term outsourcing as shorthand for all of this stuff where you have people in India, for example, doing
Yes, yes.
things. And that's not, I mean, sometimes that is what's happening, but with what you do, that's not the right term. It's offshoring. So what is the difference between outsourcing something versus offshoring something?
Well, these are semantics in a way, but conceptually, so outsourcing started way back, but most of the firms were not very successful in kind of with outsourcing, wherein you hire. Typically, what they did was they hired Indian chartered accounting firms, which is basically CPA firm. What we have CPA firms in US and Canada, it's equivalent. So they started hiring Indian chartered accounting firms, and um, Indian chartered accounting firms' first focus is their domestic business. So this remained a secondary focus, and then they, what we heard from our clients that we tried this, but we never got the quality. We had these challenges of connectivity, etc. So they were handicapped with all those issues. So there, in Indian firms never had that focused approach towards this. And then what they did was, you pay us for this project and we'll be able to complete it, and your cost of doing it, onshore would be this. If you do it with us, this would be the cost, and that's how we benefit. And then it started on that premise, but eventually, work needs to get done. That's important,
Yep.
You can't, it should, you cannot deliver an underwear when you ordered a T-shirt,
Right.
So, so a lot of times, initial days we had a tough situation when we used to sell this and convince this that this is going to be your team working under you, and getting trained by you and be dedicated to you. People had this; they had their hands burned on outsourcing before, and they were not really comfortable with what we were doing. They said that this is not going to work, and this is not going to happen. But those are old days. Things have really changed after that. But kind of to come to your point, so outsourcing is where they used to hire a vendor, and vendor would deploy their team and work as a third-party vendor. Essentially, we here are a service provider to build your own team. So here, this team would work dedicatedly for you, directly reporting to you. They get trained on your processes. You hire them, you get to interact with them. So this is the process is what we call as like you're building your team. Small and mid-sized firms would not come India and build up their own infrastructure and build up their own company and get through those hassles and compliances, etc. And typically to attract talent, if you don't have enough size and enough understanding of the ecosystem, you'll not be able to even attract right talent and train that talent. So we do that a little bit of owning of the talent, picking of the talent, providing the infrastructure, continuously updating that talent, and giving that atmosphere to an ecosystem to grow. So that's what we typically do, but firms have complete control over the reporting talent.
So when
That's
a firm,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, no, I was just going to say, when a firm works with Integrity, the worker in India is an Integrity employee, but really they're on the staff of the firm, and they're a part of that firm that they're working for. And really, the firms that I think have the most success with it really treat that worker as a member of the team of that U.S. firm, right?
Well, absolutely. we had a fair bit of success on our side with our clients. And one of the important aspects is what just you mentioned. They treat all the team members with parity. These team members, whether it's offshore, onshore, goes to their monthly meeting, whether it's a virtual happy hour on Friday, you go there and you talk to each other and interact and share what you did and what's happening with your life. Yeah, it's a different time zone, but we are used to that. We are used to it. We work late nights,
Right.
so that's not a problem. But yes, the both the teams are integrated and work as a part of together and as a part of the firm's banner. So objectives are aligned. They understand that whatever we are doing at the end of the day is for the benefit and for the clients of the firm.
So you touched on this a little bit, but it's taken off since around 2014, 15. But how did COVID then change things? I mean, COVID really accelerated something that was already happening, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Absolutely. COVID has, our life would be defined as if pre-COVID and post-COVID era. So COVID kind of divided our life. Before that, we used to tell that there are two eras, pre-Google and post-Google.
Right.
Yeah. So now this time, we can say that our life, at least we can say in our lifetime, where we have still 50% of our life left ahead of us. I'm 37 and I'm hopeful I'll at least live 75.
Right.
So our life would be divided into pre-COVID and post-COVID era. So now we are in the post-COVID world. So to understand the impact, let's go a little bit back in 2015 when we used to do it. Chris, Mike, and then Ted, you all used to go to conferences. We used to talk to accountants, and 10 out of 5 accountants did not know anything about remote work. I mean, it seems like an alien word, and if we talk to them, they'll turn away, and they'll think that. I mean, they'll at least they would appear to be listening, but they would not be listening. So it was a situation like that. And so we were educating. A lot of people listened to it, but not everyone kind of bought it. So that used to be the situation. Well, we don't do anymore. We don't do that anymore. All accounting firms are already educated on remote working. So COVID kind of taught them already. We used to talk to them about how you can migrate to cloud, how you can have your entire document management softwares, your email hosting, everything on cloud. We used to educate them on that. Well, we don't do that anymore. So that education is not required anymore. Everybody knows about it, most of them at least. We used to talk to them that, you can have a staff member who can speak your language and has the right skill set, can work from anywhere. And they used to react to us. It was surprising, sometimes. But when you used to talk about this and when you used to explain them this, they never believed in us. But pandemic made the case for us. So if you ask me, this is the big change. One of the another big change is staffing situation. Just got kind of worsened post-pandemic, and I don't know what has happened. The real reason I'm still not able to figure out why sudden surge. Staffing was a big challenge, but the situation was not as worse as it's now. So when I talk to accountants today, the reaction is such you cannot believe that. They say that where are the staff? Where are the team? Where are accountants? I'm not able to find them. So that's the situation today. So that all led to what we are doing. So just to give you we being one of the flagship companies into building building team for accounting firms offshore. So what we did in for 6-7 years, we did more than that in the last 15 months as a business. So that's the kind of positive side of what we do. Pandemic has made a big change. On the India side, let me highlight this a little bit. On India side, so India was never prepared for such a huge, such a big shift in demand from US and Canada side for offshore accounting. So now on India side also, staffing has become challenging. So, well, the claims that a lot of firms are making that we can really, staff people for you anytime, and then, we'll keep people on the bench, and all those tall claims are false. Staffing has become challenging. We have told our clients that you will have to wait for 3-4 weeks for onboarding. And in some case, in some senior roles, we have just said no, that for next 6 months, we will not be able to staff anyone
Wow.
for that. Yeah. So that's the kind of situation we are going through. Good thing is, in India, people are actually, ecosystem is accelerated, but you can't have, people just becoming American accountants overnight. We
Right.
can't have that.
You can't.
So,
No.
So you cannot have that situation at all. So that's the kind of situation we are going through in India. We are being very transparent. We are focused on serving existing clients more than taking on new clients, because we need to have people to do the work, and we don't have it. So that's the kind of situation we are going through in India.
Well, in the United States, we call it the Great Resignation, and different industries are experiencing this, where it's just hard to find help, and certainly with accounting firms, it is. And I guess on that theme, I've read some of your case studies about how sometimes accountants who are hesitant about offshoring will say, "Well, I want to keep jobs here in the U.S." But what you find is that if they offshore, their firm actually grows far more, and they're able to hire more people at higher level positions in the US, paying better. Well, maybe not so much anymore in the Great Resignation, but that's how it's supposed to work anyway, is you offshore, but it leads to greater growth overall that wouldn't happen if you didn't offshore. At least that seems to be the thing that I see on the case studies that I read about success stories on this.
Well, there are two dimensions. I have two thoughts here. First, what we think is a macro level thinking, where you need to keep jobs in the states, in the country. And second is the firm perspective. How would it impact firm's business, its growth? So offshoring, whether you like it or not, offshoring is going to be an integral part of developed world accounting industry. And not just US, it's Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, all of these English-speaking nations, because India has the biggest English-speaking population in the world after US. So that's true. That this phenomena, and it's an organic phenomena which happens, in the world. Well, why? Let me give you an example here. Why am I using American phones? Because they are doing well.
Right.
They're a great product.
Mhm.
They're designed in China. Now they're made in India, by the way. But this is designed in California. They're manufactured in China, manufactured in India. So it's not that India doesn't consume American products, or American doesn't deal with American businesses. Amazon still is one of the biggest e-commerce platform in India, which is an American company. Microsoft still is the largest office suite company in the world, and so it is in India. So in this larger ecosystem of the world, there is a book called "The World is Flat." So beyond those boundaries of labor capital that we are talking about. So and this is going to be more democratized. You can't just create those artificial boundaries, with more and more global workers coming across. So that's more a macro perspective to what I'm saying. It's an organic phenomenon, and then you individually as a firm cannot just blame it a particular situation. I mean, if countries become that restrictive, I don't know how would the world look like. Most of, I mean, out of Fortune 500 companies, most of the companies derive more than 50% of their profit of business done outside America. So it's a global phenomenon. At a micro level, firm needs to understand that if this phenomena goes and if you don't adapt to that, there is certain level of obstacles that you need to that start coming in, and we have seen that firms started turning down the business, firm not able to service their client at the best level. Firm kind of start raising their price because of the higher cost of the labor. Sometimes, finding a talent itself is becoming I'm talking to accountants and they say that they have advertised in the local newspaper, they have put their resume on Craigslist and Indeed. They are not just getting the resume. Forget about rejecting the candidates. And so I was talking to one of my clients in California, and she said that a boy, after 15 days of waiting, after posting it on Indeed and some local colleges and newspapers, I got one interview scheduled, and that boy was right out of college, and the expectation was to pay 80,000 plus commission on every tax return. Well, a small firm with 7 or 10, 8, 6, 5 or 6 people, how can really they afford this kind of situation? Clients are not. Yeah, clients are not raised. You're not allowed to raise your price every year.
Right.
Clients are not allowing that for every small firm. So it's a struggle for accounting firms, and it's a kind of it will just compound if you don't adapt to where the world and technology and the way things are done is more. Most of the firms has survived to pandemic and have grown through pandemic, and offshoring was one of the key reasons for it. And to what you said, I kind of second that thought, that offshore, in what we have observed in case of firms that we work with, that their domestic hiring has just increased with offshore.
Yep.
Because the firm has grown exponentially, the clients has increased, the work from same client has increased. So that has been the phenomena. They have never been required to lay off their existing staff members or their onshore staff. It has just grown organically, strength to strength.
Now, we want to talk about beyond tax, accounting, and audit today. But before we get to that, I do want to talk, and it kind of ties into that and everything else that we've talked about, but the hiring process that you go through, because in my experience in working with anybody I've ever talked to at Integrity, is how intelligent everybody is, how well spoken they are. Many of them are licensed. I know the enrolled agent designation is something that's taking off in India. You have your own, I believe it's chartered accountants, which is similar to a CPA. So when people come to work for you, they have quite a bit of knowledge already about both accounting, maybe even U.S. taxes. They're well spoken. How do you interview people and choose who to hire on your side?
Well, you must have spoken with our happy clients or some of the testimonials. To be honest with you, Jason, we had fair share of failures on our side as well. We are in a business where you can't make everyone happy. It's what's get counted is what level of service you provide to your client and how committed you are, and how transparent you are, and how much success you had with your client relationship. So that's what counts, according to me. But expectation management in service business is always a challenge, and we had to go through that challenges from our side as well. There are certain myths around, offshoring, which I would like to clarify before jumping onto your question on the recruitment. So, firms sometimes think that offshoring is going to solve all of their problems. Well, offshoring is a solution that complements the overall business strategy. It's not the only strategy. So that's one thing. Second thing, you are hiring a staff whom who is a human being, first of all, and who requires handholding, training, onboarding, just like any other staff member you hire onshore, who requires a place where he can go and give feedback, has questions that he can ask, who requires a supervisor or a manager whom they can go to, who need to know where the firm goals are, what's the firm vision, what is expected of him, who needs to know what kind of role he needs to play within the firm. So all of these needs to be part of your hiring, onboarding, interview, and the life further. I mean, we have created a very good portal which we give to our existing clients, wherein we walk them through the offshoring cycle, where we make them understand that, interviewing and hiring staff is just first step. It's not the end of the process. It's just the beginning of the process.
So the firm, I mean, they're going to have like human resources. They have to manage that person that they're hiring. It's not just, okay, we brought Integrity in, we've got someone who's just going to show up and do some work for us, and we don't have to do anything. Like it's as if really they've hired someone here in the States. I think the best thing I've seen from like Chris Rivera, I've watched some of his materials, some of his videos and stuff. It's your employee happens to be in India, but they are your employee is the best way to look at it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So beyond tax, accounting, and audit. So
before we go there, I think the second piece of the question, actual question about our hiring process. So, so this was what I wanted to talk to you about. When you step into it, give it the time. It's a gradual process for your firm. Second thing, when you talk about how we recruit people, so we have our HR department, which kind of has the process of posting out requirements, scanning resumes, selecting candidates for the interview, testing. Once the test comes, then there is a manager round of interview, technical round of interviews. And finally, you get people that are selected, that they sit on the bench and they're presented for the interview to the clients. Sometimes, we have people that are relieved from existing clients also out of the bench. And they get presented for the interview as well. So this is how the hiring process broadly works, end to end. Well, we do a detailed background check before hiring because data security and confidentiality is the number one priority when it comes to working with clients and their sensitive information. So apart from testing competency and the character and the capabilities, we also do a big check on ourselves. So that's how a broader hiring process kind of looks like. Sorry, you go ahead.
Well, and so your work location, I mean, you have restrictions on what parts of the building people could get into. There's prohibitions on things like cell phones and mobile devices. I mean, obviously, no one, even here in the States, can be 100% certain that nothing's ever going to happen, but you certainly take precautions to keep things. I know another one is you don't allow people to have like USB drives and things like that in their possession. So you do things on your end for data security too, correct? In your location.
Well, that is one of the biggest, you can say, trust area that we need to win for our clients and we need to sustain. We need to work because client has the report. This is a valuable information that client has given access to the staff member offshore. And we need to, the first thing that we teach or we tell our staff members that gets onboarded during induction is we tell this statement that consider yourself privileged that client has chosen you and us against somebody else to work with. This is kind of first statement that you put yourself in a position of privilege that you and integrity has been chosen by a client to be working with them. And we need to make sure that we take utmost care of this trust and privilege that we have today. So that's how the process kind of starts from the very beginning. So this is what we inculcate. So this is what we want to respect. And that's where the germs of building that trust starts. We may have situations where the quality of the work or staff may not have worked out. We work with 700 or 800 accounting firms. There have been situations, and there may be difference of expectation. But firms can have doubt on capabilities, but not on intent. So that's how. So data security and this has been number one priority for us. We implement a lot of checks and balances in our system. No mobile phones, CCTV cameras around. You said no USBs. So all of that is part of work culture and part of IT controls in India.
So
at every office.
okay, so our topic today is beyond tax accounting and audit.
Absolutely.
And so, I mean, when Integrity started, I mean, a lot of what you provided, I suppose, was data entry on tax returns, bookkeeping, and so forth. And I'll say I get more and more like spammy type of emails from places that appear to have just started that are in either India or Southeast Asia, the Philippines, and they say they could do offshoring. And so I suppose Integrity is facing more. I mean, you were one of the first, I suppose, but now there's many trying to get in on your game, I guess. So yeah, as you operate, I guess you're always striving for improvement and doing things differently. And it seems like one of those is moving beyond tax, accounting, and audit into more specialized things that you can offer to firms. So what do we mean, Sean, when we say beyond tax, accounting, and audit?
So let me tell you a little bit about. So we always learn from the feedback of our clients, understand their pain area, what they are going through, what are their challenges, and try to solve that. That's where we understood that accounting, tax, you said more and more firms or more and more companies are coming in. Well, there are challenges around that as well. But yeah, you're right in a way that when you see a reasonable success of a company, or when you see that this business this industry is scaling, you have big smaller players coming in, and that's all good for the ecosystem overall. However, what I would like to highlight here is we continuously try to anticipate client problems. So we started with accounting, we moved into tax, that being a little complicated. We then advanced into helping clients with more sophisticated rules into accounting and tax. Then we started with audits. Today we work with almost 100 accounting firms just for audits, and all kinds of audits, non-profits, single audit, homeowners association, audits for financial statements audit, all kinds of audits we help, staff. While we advanced into audit, we realized that firms, especially larger firms that we work with, when I say larger, more than 30, 40, 50 employee firm, one of their pain areas were, specialized roles. Like they need a staff member that has a knowledge of tax resolution. They need a staff member with business valuation knowledge. They need a staff member with, let's say, SOC audit experience. They need a staff member with, let's say, SOX or internal audit experience or SEC compliance. So all those areas of transactional advisory, So that was one of the pain areas that we thought, can we kind of, because In India, you genuinely don't have talent for these areas.
On you froze up.
Oh,
You,
okay.
you were in a pose like this, and your mouth was open, and there were no words coming out. So
Okay, maybe internet was a little unstable on our side. So let me start from where was I froze?
You had talked about how it's hard to find talent for some of those specific things in India, and then that's when you froze up.
So even in India, it's very difficult to find that talent. In fact, you don't have that talent. But what we did was we have designed this specific certificate courses, practical courses around each of these domains. We have partnered with this big continuing education companies and other companies, and one of them is ICP. So we have kind of designed those courses into business valuation, and we are going to hire Indian chartered accountants and semi-qualified chartered accountants, and going to train them on these roles, and then they have basic experience of US accounting, US audit, US tax, and they'll be ready to work on those specialized roles at an associate position. When I say associate, that position would be good with somebody 2 to 4 years of experience. Okay, so that's how we are trying to solve problems for this niche roles for accounting firms, and so far we have helped about 10 or 12 firms, and they seems to be pretty happy with what we have done. So which are real signs of green shoots that we are looking at. And another expansion that we made was into the roles of admin and customer support. So we started providing staff members, which helps you with customer support, a little bit of business development, a little bit of virtual assistance, managing calendar, inbox, emails, document management. So a lot of administrative and customer support work in a firm. Typically, in smaller firms, it's divided between your staff, and you don't have a dedicated person for each senior, and then you have a front office guy or a office manager. So and in case of mid-sized and larger firms, you may have dedicated people for each partners or senior managers, or you may have a shared resource between partners and senior managers. So we thought that, and some of these functions were performed by partners and managers and senior managers themselves. So we thought that if we can take the work from the plate of these people will have more work, more time for the core jobs that they are doing. So honestly speaking, I mean, we have got amazing feedback on these roles where, in case of smaller firms, owners and partners are really, really happy that what they were doing. It is said, I mean, they think that even if you take 10 hours of work off my plate and do it in 20 hours, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. My time is worth $200 an hour, and you're charging me $12 an hour. So it's still worth. I mean, they did invest in a little bit of training, because it's not easy to transition the work that you have been doing, because you have your mental checklist, you have your mental processes that you have built. So documenting it, training somebody on it takes a little bit of time, but we have seen smaller firms seeing amazing results. And with mid-size and regional firms, we have seen partner and their support staff were able to free up a lot of their time. Senior managers were able to free up a lot of their time. So a lot of common functions between these senior managers. Let's say one of our firms have hired 2 document processors that makes edits on engagements and the final report you send to client for audit. So these things were done by senior managers before, and now being done by a team of 2 people is actually helping about 12 senior managers there in a mid-sized regional accounting firm. So in nutshell, we understood we talked to client, we thought that how we can help them. how we can take up the work off your plate so that, you can grow more. You can solve more problems of your clients. So it's like a chain where we try and solve problems of our clients, which is firms, and they in turn solve problems for their clients, which are in businesses and then startups and growth companies, all of that. So that's how we complement the efforts of our firms and our clients. So we listen to them, and that's how we have grown beyond just accounting and tax.
So we've been talking almost an hour here, Sean. I suppose we should probably start reaching toward the finish line here. This is going to be a really broad question that I'm going to ask you here, but is there anything else that you wanted to tell us today on this topic? I mean, we've covered tons of ground from the history of all this on up to what you're doing now and beyond tax, accounting, and audit. Is there anything else that you want to get out to the accounting world before we wrap things up today?
Well, nothing. You should have a slow start to offshoring if you have not done. And if you're already doing it, well, have a positive approach that this is going to be part of your firm strategy for a longer term. So that's the simple two-line message or conclusion I have. We hope to continue and support mid-size and regional accounting firms and small accounting firms as a part of our business strategy and help them to compete against large giants so they don't eat up their businesses. So we find it very fulfilling where we see that those small businesses and mid-size and regional businesses are able to grow, and we have a small contribution to their growth and their survival.
All right, so Integrity.com is the website, correct?
Yes.
So check that out and get more information there. And, Sean, I'm sure that I know Chris Rivera is at Integrity, and he does some podcasting too of his own. I'm sure you or him or others from the Integrity staff will be on again. But thanks so much for joining us today. It's really been informative. I hope our listeners got some good information about it. So thank you, Sean.